What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be ranking the New York Giants' top head coaching candidates, but I'm going to be sharing my screen, and we're going to be going through a tier list. That's right, we're going to be doing a tier list. I think this is the first time we've ever done this on the channel. If we've ever done it, it had to have been like 3+ years ago. It's been a while, but New York Giants head coaching search, I figure let's have some fun with it. Let's go ahead, have a conversation on all of the top head coaching candidates and try and rank them as best as we can in the early portion of the cycle. And I'm going to put a disclaimer. These are subject to change. My thoughts and feelings on some of these coaches and candidates and coordinators, they might change. I might learn some new information about this defensive coordinator, this former head coach, this future head coach. I might have some changing of a mind as we go through the process over the next several weeks leading into January when the Giants do eventually hire their head coach. But I figure early in the process, let's have some fun. Let's look at the top candidates for the New York Giants head coaching position and try and rank them on the tier list. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. Diving in on the tier list, let's go ahead and start off right here with Steve Spagnolo. I'm going to drop Steve Spagnolo into B tier list for now because I think there's a lot of pros and cons with Steve Spagnolo. One thing that I know positively about Steve Spagnolo, he's going to reinstill a culture for the New York Giants of no BS. There's going to be discipline. They are going to play tough. And the defense, that's the other major positive. He's going to unlock that defensive line, no doubt about it. He knows how to get the most out of pass rushers. We saw that when he was with the New York Giants. We've seen that during his time with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, for God's sakes, Steve Spagnolo is the best defensive coordinator of all time, arguably. So I'm going to throw him into B tier. This is subject to change as we go through this. I might drop him down to C tier, depending. He is a former head coach. He didn't have a lot of success during his time with the St. Louis Rams, and I do question his ability to be a CEO that kind of oversees offense as well as defense, and rather than just being a defensive coordinator. But for now, I'm going to put him into B tier, and we're going to go from there. Now, going next onto the tier list, and let me just clarify, I'm not going to go through every single picture that you see on here and go through all of these names, just going to go through some of the top candidates and main guys. But next one up on here is Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh has been floated by some Giants fans in our comment section to be a head coaching candidate. I'm just going to go ahead and throw him into D tier. He's not a true candidate. I haven't heard any insiders really bring him up, but there's just a couple of things. Like Robert Saleh, I thought didn't have good discipline when he was with the New York Jets. I'm trying to avoid that here if I'm the New York Giants. I want a guy who does have good discipline. I also think with Robert Saleh, listen, you're talking about a guy who just didn't work in New York with the Jets, yes, but I just don't think that he had the right personality match for the New York media, unfortunately. So he's in D tier for me. I don't think he's terrible. I'm not going to drop him down into F tier, but he's not somebody that I'm looking at as the next head coach of the New York Giants. Now, this guy, Clint Kubiak, I'm actually going to come back to him because I think he's going to be pretty high here. But I want to kind of jump into some of the other tiers real quick just so that I can give you guys an idea of where I'm thinking right now. So, for example, Matt Nagy, I'm going to drop him into F tier just to give you guys an expectation of what I want from the head coach of the New York Giants. I don't want a former head coach who was a bad head coach. You get what I'm saying? These guys, Steve Spagnolo, I threw into B tier. It's been a long time removed since he was a head coach. Matt Nagy was the head coach of the Bears not that long ago, and he was really bad. And I don't think that he is the reason for the Kansas City Chiefs' success. In fact, I think that offense pre-Matt Nagy and post-Matt Nagy, I think I'm taking pre. They've been a little bit slower in recent years. Matt Nagy, to me, I thought he didn't have great discipline when he was the head coach of the Chicago Bears. I didn't like his offense. I thought it was super stale, and I thought he really failed to get the most out of the playmakers and especially the quarterback position while he was with the Chicago Bears. Didn't have a lot of talent in the quarterback room, that's for sure. But also he was in a front office that looked at Patrick Mahomes and said, yeah, we're not going to draft him. I don't want that. So Matt Nagy's going into F tier for me. Now let's go ahead and let's address this bottom tier, this probably not available tier. I'm only putting guys in this tier that are probably not available, but if they were, I'm hiring them. Like Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's going in that tier. Mike Tomlin is the S tier head coach candidate. If he becomes available, I'm hiring him no matter what. That's number one priority is to hire Mike Tomlin, but he's probably not available. So in the S tier that's probably not available, he's number one in there, and so is John Harbaugh. Harbaugh is a coach that's had so much success with the Baltimore Ravens, just not a lot of Super Bowl success. If they decide to move on from them, if they decide to move on from him, rather, that's their fault. That's a foolish error on their part, and another team is going to get one of the best head coaches in football because that truly is what John Harbaugh is for the Baltimore Ravens. I love John Harbaugh. I think that he is just one of the best coaches. So if he's available, yeah, he's up there, probably number 2 on the list. Who's also probably not available is Jon Gruden. I'll put Jon Gruden third here, but as you guys might know from my commentary on the channel, I'm not as high on Jon Gruden as many other fans. I think that the way that he exited the NFL was pretty ugly. I think that it revealed some pretty concerning character traits as well. Whether or not he's grown from them, changed his past, whether or not you guys think it's a big deal, okay, it's all up to debate, and I'm not really trying to get into the controversies per se, but I'll try and focus more on the football side of things. He hasn't coached in 15 years. Well, that's not true. He hasn't had success in like 15 years. When he was with the Las Vegas Raiders, it wasn't all that memorable, and it wasn't all that successful. I think that Jon Gruden is a guy that is just better suited for media at this stage in his career. Listen, the last time he was a head coach when he was with the Raiders was all the way back in 2021. That's 5 years ago now. The game has changed a lot in 5 years, and that was a 3-year stint that I don't think was all that successful. And we're talking about a guy who from 2002 to 2008 was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He moved on, and for 10 years, he didn't coach. He came back with the Raiders in 2018, but I don't think that he was as good with the Raiders as he was with the Buccaneers. So what are you hoping to get for Jon Gruden? Are you hoping that you're getting Raiders Jon Gruden, or are you hoping to get 2005 Tampa Bay Buccaneers Jon Gruden? What are the odds that you're getting that 20-year-old version of him? It's pretty slim, and I understand the appeal. He loves Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart likes him. He would instill that culture of no BS. He would be disciplined. I understand all that, but guys, I just think this would be one of the oldest head coaches in the NFL if the Giants were to hire him, and I just think that he's from a previous era in the sport. But if they hire him, again, I'm putting him up there with Harbaugh and Tomlin. I'll be happy about it. I'll be really intrigued by it, and I think it could be really, really cool. But he's not among my number 2 or 3 candidates. He's probably a little bit lower, but out of those probably not available, he is really exciting. I want to address Antonio Pierce as well. Antonio Pierce is a guy that I'm going to go ahead and put into D, because Antonio Pierce, for me, I don't think that he was a good head coach when he was with the Raiders. I don't think he got a good, fair shot at it either. I think the Raiders did him dirty. He should have been afforded more time as the head coach to really grow into the role. But I also don't think that he was the best defensive coordinator either when he was there. I understand that he's a Giants legend. Giants fans love him as a result, of course. And he's a Giants player that went on to have a really successful coaching career. And he is a leader. That's absolutely true. But he is a really inexperienced head coach. I want the New York Giants to hire a head coach with experience this time around. And that's a bigger argument for Jon Gruden, who we just discussed. He's experienced. But Antonio Pierce doesn't have a ton of coaching experience. He coached a lot as an assistant at the collegiate level. He was a good defensive coordinator, not an elite defensive coordinator by any means with the Raiders. And then he was a bad head coach, albeit only in one season. But he's just not a guy that I think is a fit for what the New York Giants need, which is stability and experience. So I'm going to go ahead and put him into D tier. Another one of those guys that's probably not available is Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is one of the best coaches in the NFL when he's at the top of his game. At least he has been over the last several years with the Green Bay Packers, but he's hit a little bit of a rut, and there are some rumors that maybe they want to move on from him. If that's the case, this is a guy who gets the New York Giants to the playoffs, I think, immediately. So I like LaFleur. I actually would put him ahead of Gruden. That's why I said Gruden's not top choice for me. LaFleur, if he becomes available, I would really like. Let's address Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka is a guy that I'm actually going to put at the top end of D tier. I definitely like him better than Antonio Pierce, and I think I like him better than Robert Saleh just because we saw Saleh fail in a very similar environment across the other side of the stadium. But with Mike Kafka, I think that there is upside here. Keep in mind, Mike Kafka is one of the most popular head coaching candidates across the NFL. Now he's got this time to audition over the next 6 weeks, obviously 7 weeks because he had a week under his belt now with the loss this past weekend. Mike Kafka has a chance to audition and to potentially keep continuity for Jackson Dart, which is somewhat important. Going back to Steve Spagnolo in B tier, one of the questions is, who would be his offensive coordinator? There's a good chance that it would be Mike Kafka. I think that's what's holding him in B tier for me rather than C tier, is because then you would have a semblance of continuity and you would be retaining one of the New York Giants' most well-liked coaches on the staff right now going into next year to keep that continuity with many of their playmakers and, of course, with Jackson Dart. So if Kafka proves himself worthy over the next 6 weeks, I'm open to it, but I don't think he's among the best candidates for the job. I think that he would be a continuity hiring, and I don't necessarily think continuity, continuing what the Giants have done, is exactly the right way to go, considering what they've done shouldn't be continued, needs to be ended. They need to be better, right? So Mike Kafka, I have an open mind to him. I want to see what he does, but for now, he's living in D tier. If he starts going on a 3-game winning streak, maybe he goes up to C, maybe he goes up to B, maybe he goes even higher. But for now, I'm keeping him over in D tier. Let's talk about Lou Anarumo. That's going to be the first one that we place in C tier. I like Lou Anarumo. He's, again, one of those no BS kind of guys, a lot of discipline, a really strong mind, and strong individual in many ways. This is a coach that I think would be a familiarity hire. He has familiarity with the New York Giants. He was a former defensive backs coach for them in 2018. Since then, he's gone on to be a good defensive coordinator with the Bengals. They didn't have any talent. I'm not going to hold their record and their defensive performances necessarily against Lou Anarumo because I thought he got the most out of that defense when he was with Cincinnati. He got fired from Cincinnati. Now he's with the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts have a really good defense. And I think Lou Anarumo has a lot to do with that. I think he knows how to get the pass rushers home. I think he can scheme together a good coverage scheme. He is a great defensive coordinator, but he's never been a head coach before. He would be a first-time head coach. Do I trust him to be the first-time head coach and find success with the New York Giants when all he knows is defense? Can he oversee a good offense? Would he be able to hire a great offensive coordinator? These are question marks for me. So he's going to be in C tier. I think he's a strong coach and a good candidate, but he's not one of the top candidates for me personally. Let's see who else is on this tier list that we can knock out. I'm going to go ahead and throw Jeff Hafley up in A tier for now. I might drop him down to B tier. The Giants just looked pretty good against Jeff Hafley. His defense didn't look so strong this past week against the New York Giants. But Hafley, the reason why I'm putting him in A tier is because of the tree that he's under and his experience in the past. Well, let's talk about the tree. It's the McVay tree, and we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. The Sean McVay tree has yielded many great coaches, including Matt LaFleur, and underneath Matt LaFleur, of course, is Jeff Hafley. So that's very interesting to me. And I think that those coaches usually have a tendency to find good coordinators. The McVay tree is very tight-knit. They all know one another. They're all connected with one another. And so they have an ability to say, hey, I know this guy would be a good fit. I'm going to hire him to be this assistant or this coordinator. That's what I like about Hafley. He can hire certain coaches maybe from Green Bay or LA or somewhere within that McVay tree that could really help him. So while he's a defensive coordinator, he also is a really good recruiter, which I've discussed in a previous episode. He was the number 9 ranked recruiter in the country when he was with Ohio State in 2019. But he also does have some experience working on the offensive side of the ball, although it's limited. And he has former head coaching experience. He was the head coach of Boston College. Now, again, it's not NFL head coaching experience, but it's head coaching experience nonetheless. He oversaw the entirety of a program. He managed the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, and special teams. He had some success with Boston College. It wasn't perfect, but since leaving Boston College, he has established himself as one of the best and brightest defensive coordinators in the NFL. There is a lot to like here with Jeff Hafley, and so I'm going to put him in A tier for now. I just think that there's really great potential with Jeff Hafley as a potential head coach, yes, but as a guy who can actually be that CEO and reinstill a new leadership. And I like his ability to find connections potentially under that McVay tree and bring some new guys in that could be really good offensive-minded coaches as well. So Hafley's going in A tier. Let's jump back down to the bottom and address Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's going at the bottom of the probably not available. He said he's not available. He said he doesn't want to coach the New York Giants. I read online, according to, I think it was Gary Myers, that Bill Belichick has burned all of the bridges that he had in the New York Giants organization. Let me just say this. A year ago, before he took this job with UNC, I probably wanted Bill Belichick. I would have thought he could be the CEO. He could have been the enforcer. He could have been the disciplinary guy, and he could have returned to form with the New York Giants, an organization that he loves. But since seeing everything that's gone down for him at UNC, how poorly that team has looked at times, poorly coached it's looked, how poor it's been, though, how he's had just strange controversies with, obviously, there's the involvement with his significant other and how involved she is in the UNC college football program is very strange and probably wouldn't fly over at the New York Giants organization. I don't think he'd be very collaborative with the people in the front office, and I don't know if I want to give the keys to the kingdom to a 75-year-old Bill Belichick, who seems like he's just a petty man right now against the Patriots organization. I mean, for God's sakes, UNC isn't even allowed to post Drake May on their social media right now because he plays for the Patriots. Bill Belichick won't allow it. That's weird parasocial behavior, and I just don't think that's going to find a lane in resonating with the players of the New York Giants today. I just don't think that Bill Belichick at this point in his career has it anymore to lead this modern New York Giants team. That's all. Utmost respect for Bill, one of my favorite coaches of all time. I just don't think he's the right fit for the New York Giants anymore, not at this time in his career, not this stage. So address that, moved on. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to give you guys my first S-tier head coach. Chris Shula, Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator. We're going to be breaking him down in full on the channel this week, so I don't want to spoil everything, but I'm going to give you guys the spark notes about why I like him so much. McVay tree, already discussed that, but it's more than just being under the McVay tree. He is Sean McVay's protege. He and Sean McVay are actually the same age. They're both 39 years old, but that's because they went to college together and they're best friends. This is Sean McVay's number one mentee. Sean McVay has mentored a lot of coaches that have gone on to be very successful head coaches. But according to Jay Glazer of Fox Sports, he has done more mentoring for Chris Shula than he has for any of those other coaches combined. He is pushing to make Chris Shula the next great head coach in the NFL. And if that's what Sean McVay is doing, I want in on it. If Sean McVay is trying to position Chris Shula as the top head coach, as the number one candidate, I'm listening to Sean McVay. I'm taking that letter of recommendation and I'm hiring that guy. Not for that reason alone, but that is a big part of it. What are the other reasons, though? He is a great defensive coordinator. That Los Angeles Rams defense is amazing. They're second in the NFL this season in points per game allowed. I think they're only surrendering 17.5, somewhere around that range, points per game. They are kicking ass. They are getting sacks. Jared Verse is awesome. Byron Young is incredible. This defensive line, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter would be able to achieve with Chris Shula's defense coaching them. It would be absolute cinema. So I would love to see Chris Shula coach this defense. But it's not just about the defensive coaching that he has. First and foremost, culture. Sean McVay's culture is amazing with the Los Angeles Rams. What he's instilled over there, what he's created over there is truly incredible, and it's something that a lot of coaches are trying to replicate across the league, hence the wide-spanning McVay tree. But this is the McVay protege. That's why I think he could instill that culture better than any of the other coaches that have come from this tree. So culture is a big part of it, and I think Chris Shula's got that down. How about experience? Does he have experience being a defensive coordinator? Yes, for 2 seasons now. This is his second season as the Rams defensive coordinator, but he has been under McVay's wing and on this coaching staff for 9 seasons now. This is his 9th season with the Los Angeles Rams, and he's done a little bit of everything. He's been a linebackers coach, an outside linebackers coach, a pass rushing coordinator, and this is a big one. In 2022, he was a passing game coordinator. That's right. He coached the offensive side of the ball for the Los Angeles Rams in 2022. So proven he's got experience on both sides of the ball. He's a phenomenal elite defensive coordinator, and he is a former passing game coordinator who learned a lot, I'm sure, from Sean McVay on how to run, call, and put together an offense in that season as well as the many other seasons. From what I understand, listen, a lot of NFL teams, the defensive coordinator is not there for a lot of the offensive meetings, is not by the side of the head coach all the time. That's not the case for Chris Shula. He is always on the hip of Sean McVay, and he's been in those offensive meetings, and he's been on that offensive side of the coaching staff. That's all really exciting to me, and I think that's why he is one of the top candidates for the Giants head coaching job. I think he can manage all 3 phases of the game. I think he can be the CEO, and I think he's a young, bright offensive mind that's going to blow people away during the interview process. I think he's got potential to be an absolute star. I would love Chris Shula. He's the first one that I'm placing into the S tier for the New York Giants. Now, who else? Also, probably not to become available is Kevin Stefanski. If Kevin Stefanski is available, that's where I'm putting him on that tier ahead of Matt LaFleur. I think Stefanski's a really good coach who knows how to coach an offensive side of the ball for sure. His tree is really impressive as well, but also his defenses have been incredible, and they've had a lot of changes over there. I just wish this guy could get a quarterback, and then we could see what he would do, because I think Stefanski really can coach quarterbacks. He just hasn't had any quarterback talent. But if he were to come to the New York Giants, well, he would have Jackson Dart. And I think he would also unlock this New York Giants defense. And Brian Burns would start putting up numbers that are even better than what he's doing right now, which is already incredible. So I love Stefanski. I think that he's a good coach. And I'm curious to see if he does become available, even though I don't think he likely will. Let's throw Arthur Smith into F tier as well. Arthur Smith, I want nothing to do with him. I thought he was a terrible head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think that he's getting the most out of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense either. I think the fact that they had to trade away George Pickens and now Pickens looks like he might be WR1 for Dallas, that's an indictment on Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith does not know how to maximize running backs either, and I don't want Cam Scatterbo to have to play in an Arthur Smith offense. Maybe he knows how to maximize tight ends. Okay, I'm not building an offense for Theo Johnson. I'm building it for Jackson Dart. And I do not think that Arthur Smith has what it takes to cultivate a development plan for Jackson Dart. He's an F tier for me. Who else is in here? This is a really interesting one. Josh McCown. This is a guy who's now currently working on the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff. I'm actually going to put him in the top of B tier. Josh McCown was the quarterback's coach for the Carolina Panthers when Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield were there. And he also famously wanted CJ Stroud over Bryce Young in that draft, but the Panthers went a different direction. And then he went to the Minnesota Vikings, and it's been reported on and described by players that McCown played an instrumental role in the development of Sam Darnold and the development of Daniel Jones while he was there as a backup to Sam Darnold, and now he's gone on to have a lot of success with the Indianapolis Colts. This is one of those guys that's earning his reputation as somewhat of a quarterback whisperer, and while he is a quarterback's coach, going from that to head coach would be a massive jump. It's not unprecedented. It's happened before. It would be a massive jump. I'm going to put him in B tier just because if you want to hire a guy to develop Jackson Dart, this is your guy. But I have a lot of questions about whether or not he can be a head coach since he's not even been a coordinator for a full season yet. So McCown, really good quarterbacks coach, might get the most out of Dart. I'm actually probably talking myself out of him. I'm dropping him down to the bottom of B tier. I like McCown. I think this is it, but this is the definition to me of a boom or a bust hire. So that's where I'm going to go with Josh McCown. I actually think I might drop him into C tier. Let's see as things go on. Now I'm going to put Jesse Minter in A tier. That Los Angeles Chargers defense kicks ass every single week. It is awesome. I love the Los Angeles Chargers. I love Jim Harbaugh, and I love Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter has gotten the most out of unknown talents in that secondary, but he has also gotten the most out of incredible talents on the defensive line, household names. Khalil Mack's resurgence under Jesse Minter, incredible stuff. Minter is a young coordinator. He is an exciting leader among young men. He connects really well with his players. This is a guy you want to listen to when he speaks at the podium. Really like Jesse Minter, one of my favorite coaches in this coordinator/coaching cycle. Only question is, can he also cultivate a winning offense? Can he, be successful on that side of the ball? Does he have enough experience to manage and become a head coach? I'm not sure. I think this would be a big jump for him. And I don't think that this is a guy who necessarily has the requisite experience that the New York Giants are looking for. So I'm going to put him in A tier just because he is such a great coordinator and a great coach and a great leader. But I do have major question marks with Jesse Minter in regards to his ability to coach the entirety of a team, be a head coach, and oversee things from that CEO perspective. But that's where I'm going to put him in A tier. He could potentially go to B tier, but I think I'm going to have him in A tier for now. And I've sat on it a little bit more. Josh McCown's going into C tier. Who else are we looking at on here? Doug Pederson. He's probably available. He's also going into F tier, but he's probably going ahead of the other guys. I'm not a Doug Pederson fan. I think that he was a benefit of an amazing roster with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think that he maximized it. I thought he had a terrible tenure with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not somebody that I would personally be interested in. Let's address the elephant in the room. I'm going to go ahead and put Mike McCarthy in A tier. Before you guys get angry at me, just hear me out. Mike McCarthy would be the true stabilizer for the New York Giants. I know that people don't like Mike McCarthy because, well, he didn't have a lot of success in the Super Bowl, in the big game, right? That's the big criticism against him. He had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time when he was the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. He was the Green Bay Packers head coach from 2006 to 2018. He only won one Super Bowl in that time. But let me just put it this way. The New York Giants are so far away from their Super Bowl days that they just need to start winning games in the regular season again. Everybody says, yeah, Mike McCarthy, he's a great regular season head coach, but he's not a postseason head coach. Well, can we get a great regular season head coach first? Can we win in the regular season first before we start talking about the playoffs and the Super Bowl? You have to be good before you can be great. A lot of fans want to go from worst to first because they think, oh, look at what Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders did. They went worst to first. They almost went worst to first. They made it to the conference championship game last year. And then this year, regression to the mean. They came crashing back down to earth because you can't go worst to first. You have to become a good team before you become a great team. Like the Chiefs were a good team that couldn't get Super Bowl success for a really long time. They were just making the playoffs every year with Andy Reid. Then they got Patrick Mahomes, and then they became a dynasty with a lot of Super Bowl success. Sometimes all you need is to become a good team, win a lot of regular season games, and then you'll find that last piece later down the line. And Mike McCarthy could be the good head coach to make you a regular season and playoff contender. And then, hey, maybe after a few years of that sustained regular season success, maybe you move on from Mike McCarthy and that next guy that you hire, that's the one who gets you to the Super Bowl. It's totally possible. He could be a bridge head coach if you want to look at him that way. I mean, look at what he did with the Dallas Cowboys. They were in an absolute rut. He was hired in 2020, and every single year, that team was kicking ass and going to the playoffs. I want to look at it that way or not. They finished in third place in that first season with Mike McCarthy at 6-10, but that was coming off of a 4-7-1 season. Sorry, that was his last season in Green Bay in 2018. But that was coming off of a bad year in 2019 under Jason Garrett. But then in 2021, they go to the wild card round. They lose, yes, but they had a 12-5 record, first place in the NFC East. Year 3 of the Mike McCarthy experience in 2022, once again 12-5, second in the NFC East. Dallas 2023, 12-5 again. He went 12-5 3 straight years. And throughout the entirety of his career, he has had only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losing seasons out of, 18 total seasons, I believe. So you're talking about a guy that wins football games. He has a career 174 and 112 record, 174 wins, 112 losses, and 2 ties. He has an 11-11 postseason career record. And I understand that's where people get hung up, but the New York Giants don't go to the playoffs anymore. They've been once since 2016. Let's get back to the playoffs. Mike McCarthy would get the New York Giants. This roster right now that the New York Giants have, they are in the playoffs with Mike McCarthy coaching this team. I guarantee you that. So I want to go to the playoffs, and I want to be a good team. And I think Mike McCarthy gets us there. So he's not an S tier because I don't think he's got the ceiling of a Chris Shula, but he's an A tier because out of all the guys that I trust to get this New York Giants team to become a 10-win team next season, to make the playoffs next season, I trust Mike McCarthy the most. He's the most experienced. He is a winner. He has won a Super Bowl. People like to say, oh, he only won one Super Bowl. It's really hard to win one Super Bowl. Even Sean McVay only has one Super Bowl, and we talk about him like he's the best thing to slice bread. He kind of is, but he's only got one Super Bowl. Harbaugh's only got one Super Bowl. Tomlin's only got one Super Bowl. Why does Mike McCarthy not get the same level of respect as those guys? I mean, he deserves quite close to that level of respect. Maybe not the same, but close. He's a great head coach, and he's a winner, and the New York Giants would make the playoffs next year immediately with Mike McCarthy as the head coach, in my opinion. And if that's the goal, is to become a good team and a playoff team, hire Mike McCarthy because he'll get you there. Now, the other guy that I want to take a look at here on this list, let's see. This is an interesting name that I want to discuss. This is going to be Kliff Kingsbury. I'm struggling if I want to put him in A or B. I'm going to go ahead in B because I think Kliff Kingsbury is a very relaxed coach who doesn't necessarily have the discipline, leadership that the New York Giants want. So he's going to go into B tier for me because I think that he coaches a phenomenal offense. I think he's a quarterback whisperer. He knows how to get the most out of Mahomes in college. I think Kyler's best days were with Kliff Kingsbury. And I think that Jaden Daniels last year, what he did to develop him immediately to build an offense that translated what he did in college right away to the NFL to have that immediate success was super impressive. Kliff Kingsbury is a former head coach. He wasn't terrible as a head coach. He just wasn't good enough. And he got fired from the Arizona Cardinals as a result. But I do think that was a great experience for him. I think now over the last few years with Washington, kind of regrouping here, he could get a second chance at becoming a head coach and do a lot better of a job than he did the first time around. He is a really good quarterback coach and a really good offensive coach. Now, could he have a great defense? Could he be a CEO? That's where I get hung up. I don't know if he is a CEO. I think maybe that's what was proven during his time with Arizona, is that he can't be the CEO leader. However, at the same time, he's had time to grow. He's had time to change and to learn. Maybe he has learned. I would have to leave that up to the audition process and see how he kind of interviews and so forth. But very interesting coach candidate there for me. I do really like Kliff Kingsbury. He's one of my favorites for this job, and I'm curious to see if he ends up getting an interview from the New York Giants. Let's talk about Marcus Freeman, who I'm going to put into A tier. Marcus Freeman is one of the most successful head coaches at the NCAA level right now. He's been incredible for Notre Dame. He has rebuilt that program overnight to become a contender. They did lose the national championship last year, but they made it to the national championship. This is a organization or program rather that had no aspirations of national championships until Marcus Freeman came in and revamped the whole thing. He is truly a leader of young men, but he is inexperienced. He only has a couple years coaching as a head coach for Notre Dame, and he's done a tremendous job, but he does not have any experience coaching at the NFL level. He has never experienced what it's like to coach a 35-year-old veteran who's been in the league for 15 years. So those are hurdles that he has to jump. Also, being at the collegiate level, does he have the connections to make great hirings, bring in a spectacular offensive coordinator to develop Jackson Dart? I don't know. So as a result, this is a guy that I think is a great head coaching candidate, but he has question marks. But at the end of the day, he is a winner and he is a culture setter. So I'm going to put him in A because I think if you're looking for CEO/leadership experience, Marcus Freeman is one of the best leaders that's on a sideline in football, collegiate or NFL. He's one of the best leaders on a sideline right now. So he's going into the A tier for that because I think he really could be a CEO. But I just think he would probably have some learning curves and some bumps in the road with this experience. So we'd have to see eventually whether or not he's able to shake through those. But that's why I'm going to put him at the bottom of the A tier. He arguably could be in B tier, but I do really like Marcus Freeman. We're only going to go through a few more of these names here. I'm not going to go through everybody. I am going to go ahead and throw Lane Kiffin at the top of B tier. I would make the argument for him to be in A tier, but I know Giants fans will be mad at me. For some reason, it seems like you guys in the comment section don't really like the idea of Lane Kiffin. I really like the idea of Lane Kiffin, man. There's a reason that there's a bidding war going on in the SEC to acquire his services. He is a really good coach, and he is a program builder. And what the New York Giants really need right now is a program builder. They need a guy to revamp and reset the culture, instill a new hierarchy of leadership, and really oversee the whole project. And Lane Kiffin can do that. He failed to do that 15 years ago, 17 years ago, whatever it was when he was the head coach of the at the time, the Oakland Raiders. That was a miserable experiment that just went south. But that was a very long time ago. Since then, he rebuilt the FAU college football program, and he turned this Ole Miss college football program into a juggernaut. They are contenders. They could honestly make a deep run in the college football playoffs this year because of Lane Kiffin. That was not achievable for them prior to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin has rebuilt that program, and the Giants need somebody to rebuild their program, and I think Lane Kiffin could do that, and I think he could do it really well. Plus, it doesn't hurt. Ole Miss head coach Jackson Dart loves him. The Dart family is really close with the Kiffin family. He loves Jackson Dart. If he's ever going to leave college, I think it would be for the opportunity to coach Jackson Dart, but I don't think he's going to leave college. In fact, I actually think we can put him down here in the probably not available category because I don't think he's going to leave college, especially with UF and LSU bidding for him and trying to get him. I don't even think he's going to leave Ole Miss, but if he does, hopefully he goes to the Gators. But we'll see how it goes. But for now, Lane Kiffin, one of the top head coaches in college football. I think he would do a tremendous job with the New York Giants, but I understand why some would have their reservations. He hasn't had any success as an NFL head coach. All right, so next up on this list, I actually think we're going to end this here because this video is getting pretty long, and we've gone through a lot of different names. And some of these guys down here, Mike McDaniel, is he really worth putting on there? I mean, he's probably not available, and if he was, I think he's going to drop into an OC role. Same thing here. Vic Fangio probably not available. If he were, though, honestly, he'd definitely be at the top of C, maybe in B tier. But let's just cap this off with Clint Kubiak, who's going to be the other guy that I put into S tier. Actually, I struggle with this because Clint Kubiak, as you guys can see, I'm very picky. I don't pile guys into S tier. S tier is something that's very rare to me. That's like, I'm only putting somebody in S tier if I feel like I have a conviction that they really can be one of the 5 to 10 best coaches in the NFL. I have that conviction over Chris Shula. I've done my research on him. Again, we're going to present more of that research. Alex and I are going to do a joint video together where we discuss him. I have a lot of confidence in Chris Shula. Clint Kubiak has been a steady riser in NFL circles, and what he's doing right now with that Seattle Seahawks offense is spectacular. That's an offense that was really struggling with Shane Waldron and couldn't find its way, and then all of a sudden, Clint Kubiak stepped in and revamped it, and he turned it into a juggernaut offense. Look at Sam Darnold now. I mean, he's even better than he was in Minnesota. He's maybe an MVP candidate. Look at JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, one of the best, if not the best receiver in football this season. Clint Kubiak has had an incredible ability to kind of just revamp offenses and reshape them. And I think he is a quarterback whisperer. And I think Jackson Dart would thrive in his offense. And I think he would build a hell of an offense for Jackson Dart. So I really like Clint Kubiak. The only reason I'm not putting him into S tier is because he was the offensive coordinator for the Saints. He struggled immensely as the offensive coordinator of the Saints. I believe that was just last season. And I think that there is still a lot of room for improvement in terms of the experience that he could gain. I think he's a boom or bust hire in many ways. Listen, he's had a really great run. He was a passing game coordinator for the 49ers in 2023. That means he's part of that Shanahan tree. That means I like him. I love the Shanahan tree. Anybody from the Shanahan tree I think is excellent. So that's why he was so coveted as an offensive coordinator candidate. He goes to the Saints. Really struggled there, though. He didn't do a great job with the Saints. Now he's here with the Seattle Seahawks as one of the best offensive coordinators in football. So he's been around the quarterbacks with the Minnesota Vikings 2019 to 2020. He was their OC for a season. He went over to Denver. He was with the 49ers under Shanahan. I think that's where he really learned a lot. I think this is a guy that could potentially be ready for a head coaching job, but he's only ever coached the offensive side of the ball. I don't know what his leadership qualities look like. I don't know if he's got the ability to oversee everything and be the CEO type, but I do know that he is a great offensive mind, and Jackson Dart would thrive with Clint Kubiak as his head coach. So he's going to be near the top of A tier for me. Before I do end this video, I'm going to go ahead and see if I want to reshape this at all. I think I'm going to leave it as Chris Shula, the only guy I'm putting in S tier. Again, I think S tier is rare. It's hard to get into S tier for me. So I'm going to go ahead and put him into S tier and nobody else. It's just Chris Shula. If I had to hire somebody tomorrow and I had my pick of the litter, it would be Chris Shula. But if it's not Chris Shula, it probably would be Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy immediately makes this Giants team a playoff team. And I just want to see the Giants play some playoff games. So I'm going with him. Clint Kubiak, I think, could make the team a playoff team, but I don't know. He hasn't been a head coach before, and that does scare me. The only reason I have Jeff Hafley this high up is because he has been a head coach, albeit for a college program, but he has been a head coach. I actually think Jesse Minter, as much as I love him, he probably shouldn't be in A tier because he hasn't been a head coach before. I'm going to put him into B tier. I think Steve Spagnolo's prior experience as a failed head coach is valuable. I think he could get a second chance as a head coach and do a really good job. And same thing with Kliff Kingsbury. So I'm going to reshape it just like that. I might honestly throw Josh McCown down into D tier. I think experience is really important, and he just doesn't have enough of it. He hasn't been, coaching long enough. He is a former player, and while I think that he's done an incredible job developing and scouting quarterbacks, I mean, this year he's just the quarterbacks coach for the Minnesota Vikings like he was last year. Hasn't been promoted to OC or anything like that. He has not been an offensive coordinator before. I think that's too quick of a jump, so I'm putting him down into D tier. I just want somebody with more experience for the New York Giants. And so I think there are a lot of experienced candidates on here. And again, there's a bunch of candidates down here that we're not going through today that maybe we will go through in the future. I think that's Nick Saban down there. Yeah, okay, because Nick Saban, nearly 80 years old, is going to come back to the sidelines here. I highly doubt it. Anyway, this is my tier list for now. You guys let me know what you think about everybody, where I have them placed. Should anybody be higher? Should anybody be lower? What's your take on it? What's your tier list look like? Tweet it at me on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo or at Fireside Giants. Do make sure to drop your thoughts down below in the comment section. And again, let me know what you think of my tier list. I'm pretty happy with the way that it came out. I think it looks pretty good. And like I said, it's subject to change over the course of the season, final 6 weeks and into January. But it's going to be a lot of fun breaking down all the candidates, re-ranking them, putting them into different tiers and all that. It's going to be a blast. I'm really excited for more breakdowns on these head coaching candidates coming at your way real soon here on Fireside Giants. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Drop your thoughts down below. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review if you listen to us on Apple or Spotify. Go ahead and follow us on all our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go, New York Giants.